you everyone so much for watching. My name is Matt Fox and this is Break a Read. And today I have a very special guest, a saxophone quartet based in Evanston, Illinois. This is Nois. How are you guys doing today?
Yeah.
Doing good.
Doing great.
Awesome. So you guys obviously aren't in the same location right now. Where are you guys throughout the country?
I'm in Evanston right now. Still holding down the fort. I'm actually back at work too, so my life has gone back to like busy mode. So
awesome.
And let's see, I am also in Evanston right now, just on the other side of town from everybody else. And I am not back at work, but you know, just kind of hanging out, keeping busy.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And I live in Chicago, but currently right now I'm actually with my family in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where I'm originally from. So got back here almost a week ago now to sort of just kind of be among, I live alone in Chicago, so it's nice to sort of be among family.
Yeah, the rest of us have a roommate, or I live with my wife, so Brandon was all alone. We're glad he's with people now.
Yeah, that's great.
We were worried a little bit.
I think Brandon's the only one who's left Evanston. I'm still here as well.
Okay, so 3 of you are still in Evanston.
Yep, just chilling.
We're actually hanging out tonight because we have to do some stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, that's exciting. So I was wondering if we could start off by maybe doing like a brief background individually, like maybe where you're from, where you went to high school, your undergrad degrees, what made you choose the schools you did. I think that would be really fun to start off.
Yeah.
Sure. I can start and we can just go score order or something to keep it moving quick.
Love score order.
Yeah, so I'm Brandon, if that hasn't been said yet. And so I was born in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And then, I lived right outside of the city in a little town called Ringgold, Georgia. And I went to a high school that was called Boyd Buchanan School, which is a private school actually in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So I crossed the Georgia-Tennessee border every day, which was fun. It's just like a 10, 15-minute drive. That's not that exciting of a journey. But yeah, one of the great things about going to that school was that it actually is basically how I started my saxophone journey, not just in the fact that I started playing the saxophone in the school band there, which we had a great small but mighty little school band program. But the saxophone teacher at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, his kids also went to my high school. So once I started getting interested in it, I was lucky enough that Clint Schmidt, the teacher there, took me on as one of those private students. He would only kind of take a couple of high school kids, maybe 1 or 2 throughout. So I studied with him from like 8th grade until I graduated high school, he blew my mind open in a bunch of different ways. But awesome. I'll keep moving because this could take forever. But so then I went to the University of Georgia for my undergrad, where I studied with Dr. Connie Frigo and did 4 years there in beautiful Athens, Georgia. And then luckily got to go to Northwestern University for my master's degree to study with Tamar Sullivan. It's an interesting thing about my life. Like the first year that Dr. Frigo was at UGA was my first year there. And the first year that Professor Sullivan was at Northwestern was my first year there.
Oh, that's so funny.
Nice to have a little flag waving of being the first in the first class, which is always cool. So yeah, then I did my master's there at NU and graduated in 2017 now. And then I liked it so much that I stuck around for my doctorate. And I am now what we call ABD in the biz,
awesome.
The all but education, the holy grail almost status. So yeah, and now I am also the associate lecturer of classical saxophone at the University of Wisconsin, Madison. And then right now I'm actually enjoying, just started yesterday, teaching the second version of my Beatles class that I teach for Northwestern's general music curriculum. So that's a little bit about me. With Saxophone Land, there's a whole other musicological thing that we can dive into later, but for the sake of others, so I'll pass it on.
Awesome.
Cool. So next, I grew up in Woodbridge, Virginia, which is about like 30, 40 minutes south of DC.
Hey, Hunter, what's your name?
What's that? What?
What's your name? You got to introduce yourself, man.
You want my full like
I want your full
Catholicism name?
Your full Catholic name.
All right, here we go. The name by the church that I don't go to is Christopher Hunter Christopher Bacchus, but everybody knows me by Hunter.
Hunter, why do you have two Christophers?
Wait,
in your
is
name?
it really Christopher Hunter Christopher?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So I chose, you get to choose your saint's name when you get confirmed at age 14. And I thought it was going to be funny to pick Saint Christopher because I already had Christopher in the name. Turns out the dude was like a bad dude. Eventually he got like desanctified. So that's fun.
Desanctified.
That's where I'm at. So
I guess if you do
Hunter.
like, totally defrocked, I guess you are dirty now, I suppose.
I guess. I don't know. People at work, so I work at PM Woodwind over in Evanston, but they call me Chunter because one day I signed C Hunter something and they just started calling me Chunter. But anyways, so I'm Hunter. And I grew up in Woodbridge, Virginia, which is about 30-40 minutes south of DC. And I lived there in like the same house like my whole life, which is fun. Did high school at C.D. Hilton High School. My first year there, it was actually like crazy wonderful in terms of the music program. My first band director, his name is Dennis Brown, who eventually became my private saxophone tutor during high school. He had this like huge long running like streak of getting like whatever the superior rating, both for his like classical band, like the band, the wind ensemble, and then the marching band. So in terms of band, it was very hardcore there. And he was also a saxophonist, so like he was like especially picky on the saxophones. So that was my first year. He retired after my my freshman year there, and then we got a new band director. But I was fortunate enough to study with him privately, and he was kind of the one person that led me into like the saxophone world, and it's kind of has a huge impact on me on why I'm playing saxophone today. So that was high school. Went to North Carolina at Greensboro for my undergrad, where we met one of my all-time lifelong best friends, Tyler Young, who you also interviewed. Mm-hmm. So we were kind of crazy at that school. It was a little wild. But I studied with Steven Stusik as well as Shin Gao, who was on while Steven Stusik was on sabbatical. My first year there, Shin taught us, which was very special to work with him. And then after those 2 years at UNCG, I transferred to North Carolina School of the Arts, where Tamar Sullivan was teaching, before we went to Northwestern, and then followed him up to Northwestern for my master's, and just kind of doing the thing here, working at PM Woodwind, as I said. It's a local saxophone repair shop, as well as like horn shop. You can get all your stuff there. And I also get commissioned, so if anybody's looking for a saxophone, let me know. I'll hook you up. And yeah, it's kind of what I do here. I teach privately. I have a private studio and stuff, but yeah, play a lot of video games.
Cool.
During quarantine, so
Great. My name's Jordan. I'm from Okemos, Michigan. I started playing the saxophone in 3rd grade. And my mom actually taught me from 3rd grade until 8th grade. And then in 8th grade, she was like, I have to yell at you to do your chores. It's also weird if I yell at you to practice your saxophone too. So we got to get you a real teacher. So then I started studying with Jonathan Nickel, who was in his doctoral degree at Michigan State at the time. And I studied with him all through high school. I went to Okemos High School for high school, which for all of you saxophone fanatics out there is across the street neighbors with Meridian Winds. So whenever I needed reeds, I could just go straight across the street.
So cool.
Straight across. Class to get reeds?
Yeah, all the time. I was in independent study band, and I'd be like, hey, Mr. Stice, I got to go get some reeds from Meridian Winds. And then he'd be like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And I'd take my car and I'd go to Taco Bell. And I'd get beans and rice, and then I would go to Meridian Winds and get my reads, and then I would come back.
You didn't lie. You just sort of did extra things.
Yeah, I didn't lie. Yeah, it happened. So anyways, after I graduated from Okemos High School, I went to Michigan State, which you can see from this cute headband I have on. And I did my undergrad there in saxophone performance with a minor in jazz studies, where I studied with my dad, Joe Luloff, and I did 5 years of undergrad there because I liked it so much. I just wanted one bonus year.
Victory lap.
Victory lap for sure. Yep, that's it. And then after that, I went to Northwestern, which is where I met these guys to study with Professor Tamer Sullivan. I graduated in 2018. And ever since then, I'm a manager at a local music venue here in Chicago called Evanston Space, which is currently closed. But when it's open, I'm a manager there. And then I'm also the applied instructor of saxophone at University of Illinois Chicago. And that's about my life up till now.
Awesome.
Nice, Jordan. All right, lowest voice. I'll finish up here. My name is Janos, and I guess I must be the only one that didn't have private instruction up until college. I was just self-taught, I guess you could say. I was, of course, in band. Should say where I'm from. I'm from Auburn, California. Well, I was born in Hungary. I moved to America when I was very young. And I was essentially raised in Auburn, went to school at Placer High School, and go Hillman. And then I was in the band program there. And then for undergrad, I went to University of the Pacific in Stockton, California, where I studied with David Henderson. Amazing teacher. I think one of the most influential people in my life, certainly. And he would not be where I am today if it weren't for him. And he played with the San Francisco Sax Quartet and just an amazing teacher and performer. And somehow I got into Northwestern, which was great. And here I am. And in Evanston, I just I do some stage managing at Northwestern. And I also work for a local concert hall, Nichols Concert Hall, do some stage managing there. And then I also work for Sistema Ravinia, which is an El Sistema program. And I help teach students like 5th to 8th grade for an after school program that's provided for free and provides free instruments for the students and whatnot.
That's
so
awesome.
I just started teaching saxophone lessons for that. And I think that's about it for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's really cool interviewing more than one people because you kind of see like what all of your like upbringings and how they like come together to, I don't know. It's just really cool to see how you guys got to where you ended up. So that's awesome. Thanks.
It's really
thanks
cool.
So much.
I mean, I love that about our group too. There's like 4 pretty different upbringings in terms of like, I was doing musical theater and playing in rock bands or whatever. And, Jordan's like skipping class to go get reads and, just teaching himself how to get super good. And Hunter's parents are like crazy acapella people too, which is dope. But some really cool stuff there.
Yeah, and that actually kind of leads into my next question. How did Nois get about being formed? Was it formed by Professor Sullivan, or did you guys kind of already have plans to play together?
Well, this is one thing that's interesting too about us that I don't think we've talked about on anything recently is that Hunter, Brandon, and I actually all met 2 years before we played in Nois at ASA together. And we weren't like really buddies. Like we hung out, we were cool, but it wasn't like our main group of people at ASA. And it was just like, actually, I distinctly remember that at ASA, a bunch of us convinced Hunter that my girlfriend at the time was a saxophonist that had been at camp the entire week and he just hadn't met her yet. And he believed it the whole time. It was great.
Well, because I'm a trusting person and I feel like
that's pretty messed up, Jordan.
Yeah, I know.
Jordan's just
in class, lying to Hunter, Oh man. But anyways, that's a fun fact. That's a fun fact about Nois. Someone else want to talk about how we started?
Yeah, I got it. So basically, so Brandon was already at Northwestern, and the 2 master students at the time was Stephen Banks, Brandon. So Stephen already had Canary, so Brandon was itching for a quartet. So when we came to Northwestern, myself, Anish, and Jordan, it was kind of like the perfect timing for everybody. Everybody was looking to, to be involved in a very, very serious quartet, and a quartet that, did something different, and kind of tried to stand out in whatever way that was going to be. So it just kind of stars aligned in a weird way. And that's how we ended up starting to play together, because we were just all the four, or there was 5 master students at the time, but we were the only 4 that didn't have a quartet.
Cool. That's awesome, because a lot of groups, I found, at least here at ASU, and I'm going into my senior year, so I've only been here for 3 years, but it's funny to see how groups form and how well they end up working together, whether it's formed by an individual, like by a professor, or if it's formed by the musicians themselves wanting to play together. So that's really cool that that Brandon, you like reached out and wanted to form the group, and it goes to show you guys are amazing, and you guys have done really well over the years. So that's really awesome.
Yeah, it was definitely I think we were technically in like chamber class at Northwestern, which for sax quartet somehow is like kind of strange the way it works. Like we were not.
Yeah,
you see, even I still don't get it. It was so confusing.
Being the chamber GA of Northwestern while I was there, I can confirm that we were not.
Weird was like, somehow saxophone quartet sat outside of the regular wind chamber music course, so we just got to do our own thing.
But we did get credits for it, so technically it was like part of school. But we always treated it really seriously, and
and you guys got coachings and stuff, right? Like multiple times, or like 1 time a week.
Definitely, yeah. That was a part of it, and but we pretty quickly started having discussions once we began about like our goals for the group and how we wanted to continue after we graduated.
Awesome. Yeah, it was like, I think a really important part of our story is that certainly we did all have to have that chamber credit. We did have to do it at least like for a year, I think, if we wanted to graduate. But from that first meeting that we had at my apartment on Janos's birthday over Yankees Barbecue, which is an Evanston, Illinois institution, and just happened to also be on my block. We had just kind of just found out that we had the same interest in terms of music that we wanted to play, and just sort of what we wanted to do with the group. I remember just going into that meeting, I had taken a year off of playing in quartets. I had been in sort of a very active group when I was in the University of Georgia, and I'd taken a year off, and I'm always a person that likes to be in a band, no matter what it is. So I was itching, as Hunter said, to get back with folks. But at the same time, no disrespect to like the Meslenka, what's the thing, recitation book? Yeah, no disrespect to that piece, but I played it a bunch. And that's like what everybody played. And I was like, if I have to play this one more time in another group, I might go into it.
So you wanted something different. You were ready.
We just wanted something different. And not that, again, nothing wrong with that piece. I think we've definitely pulled it out a couple of times to just read for fun. Nobody will ever hear that. But me just going into it being like, well, I kind of want to just focus on some like contemporary stuff, and assuming that I would imagine that people were going to say but then also we have to also do these other things. And when I just kind of floated that out there, and everybody's like, that sounds great. It was like, oh, cool, okay, great. We're all kind of on the same page here. This is awesome.
That's so great. It's always fascinating when a group of 4 musicians just like click and things just work. That's really awesome. And that kind of moves on to my next question. I'm in Helios right now, and we've been rehearsing throughout the whole year, and we're actually slightly the same group for next year. And I'm interested to hear what you guys have to think about rehearsal techniques. What do you guys do in terms of rehearsing effectively? And I know every group has like bad rehearsals where you might not get much done and stuff like that. But generally speaking, what does a general rehearsal look like for Nois?
I think Brandon, you should take this one, because we definitely have a pretty good like sort of a system we figured out that I think works pretty well for deciding what to rehearse, and that we sort of honed that through our time at school, and I think we've gotten pretty decent at it.
Yeah, I can talk about it. Like, I think the most important thing to us in the beginning, and still now even, is kind of a sanctity of the warm-up time together, and making sure that we are always doing something, even if it's only 5 or 10 minutes. That's just sort of focusing our sound and intonation. Like, it was really crucial to us in those, particularly those early rehearsals, that we were just going to play in tune. That was just going to be how it was. And by doing things like playing Bach chorales, as sort of the ultimate kind of step of that, but also just playing unison scales. I mean, literally just taking one, picking, and often we got to pick the hard ones, right? Like, don't just play B flat, concert B flat major every time. Pick that concert E. That's going to be absolute worst nightmare. You spend like 45 minutes on that.
Yeah.
But actually really sitting in there and not being satisfied until it was in tune, at least, or at least we had made some progress. And so we do that. We make sure to do a little warm-up time. And then, now, I mean, the rehearsals have changed, I think, so much since we started to now, just based on what our activities are. Because in the early days, it was preparing for a competition, sometimes preparing for a gig too, but we often sort of had maybe the same kind of set of repertoire that we were able to kind of work on frequently. And we had, like, things like reference recordings for those, and other ways to sort of listen in and think about things. And now it's almost exclusively either commissioned or pieces that we've certainly never played before, or people haven't played a lot of. So we have to kind of come into the rehearsal and be like, what is this thing? And how are we going to do this? So there's a lot of good talking that goes on and trying things. We're very much, both when we're working with composers and when we're working with ourselves, trying to be as open as possible to any idea, even if it seems dumb. And certainly we've all had moments where all of us have been, maybe resistant to an idea, maybe myself included, of just sort of, I don't know if that's really going to work, but you've got to try it. You just kind of have to. And sometimes you find that even if it's not the right thing, it might have led you on to sort of a different idea. So always being really flexible, I think, in trying everybody's ideas, and then letting sort of a vote kind of situation just kind of work it out. I think that's sort of how we do that. I don't know if that really answers your question.
Yeah,
Please feel free to come with other stuff.
Something to add on this too that I think is unique that we do is kind of like what Brandon touched on. Back in the early days, it was like preparing for competitions. These are the 6 to 8 pieces that we're playing, and they have to be really great. But the further we get along into the career, just the more amount of repertoire that there is that has to be up. For instance, right before the world shut down in March, we were on a tour for like a couple weeks around NASA, and we performed 17 works over the course of those 2.5 weeks. And it's really easy for things to slip through the cracks when you're doing that. And so one thing that really works well for us is that Brandon is our designated rehearsal scheduler. And so we have all week leading up until Friday, where it's like, hey, if you've got something where it's like, hey, this part and this piece really sucks, we got to work on that. We operate as a group in Slack is our messaging platform of choice. And so in the rehearsals and meetings request thread in Slack, you say, hey, Brandon, can we schedule time to rehearse measures 50 through 60 of Jim Peacock's Dwalm sometime next week? And then Brandon looks at all the requests on Saturday, and he creates a schedule for the week. We typically, during normal times, rehearse 4 days a week, a total of 10 hours a week. And so Brandon then parses out that time to make sure that he's looking at what gigs are coming up, what's on the rep for the gigs that are coming up, what absolutely has to happen, and then really plans out time-wise what we have. And it goes in our Google Calendar. And then so on Tuesday afternoon after Nois, I can be like, okay, let me look at my Google Calendar for Wednesday Nois rehearsal. Oh, look at that. I haven't played that Ken Thompson piece in 6 weeks. I better practice that before we rehearse it tomorrow. And so that really allows us to all be accountable of knowing exactly what needs to be ready to go when you come into rehearsal, and also making sure that you don't spiral and spend like an entire rehearsal on one very small thing when you've got a ton of other stuff to get to.
Yeah, that's really cool. I haven't even thought about, what was the name of it? Slack, you said?
Yeah.
Slack. So I just started off by, I'd started Googling around. Like, I started talking to some friends who weren't musicians about like how they're operating their teams. That's like a big buzzword in like kind of business land. Everybody seems to be a team now. But there was like Microsoft Teams and Slack were sort of the ones that came up the most, and Slack happens to be free, like the easy version. And then I put a post out to like all the music people. It's like, hey, people who use Slack, yay or nay? And my favorite one was from Doyle Armbrust of Spectral Quartet that said, it works too well.
Yeah, he said like pros, it works really well. Cons, it works really well.
That's yeah. Yeah, because it
like
ends up kind of eating your life in a certain sense. Like just because it becomes very easy to communicate it, what it does is it helps you break things down by topic channels. So like Jordan said, there's the rehearsal meeting request one where everybody can jump in there and say, hey, like we really need to work on this part of this piece. And then we've got stuff that's, for like our daily album thread, get to, and those kind of things, and also just ones for memes and jokes too.
Yeah.
It just got to the point where the messenger thread, where like the cat videos were starting to take over the like what you need to wear to the gig, and then somebody comes in like a pineapple shirt, and they were supposed to be like in a full suit or something. Which actually is not. I didn't even mean to throw that at you.
I was like, did I do that?
It's like it's targeted at another office.
I just literally just thought pineapple shirt for no reason.
Hunter's got a great pineapple shirt he likes to wear to gigs.
And he's worn it on gigs appropriately.
Perfect. So yeah, that's great. I really should look into that program because
everybody should.
That's the biggest thing. Like it's always hard, especially leading up to competitions or performances and tours or stuff. Like saying when you're gonna rehearse, but also what you're gonna rehearse, and having that scheduled like way in advance. So that would definitely help. Brandon, if you wouldn't mind, when you're not talking, I think there's some feedback coming from the mic.
Yeah, your
Maybe
mic.
We can mute, and then when you're talking, you can press the space bar.
Oh, okay, yeah. Is it doing it right now still?
No, I was doing it when Matt was talking though.
Yeah, we're just getting some heavy echo.
Okay.
I mean, it was awesome.
Jordan's really into it.
Cool. So, I actually want to ask you guys, do you have a specific rehearsal that like all four of you can agree is the most memorable rehearsal of your years together?
I saw that question on there, and I thought that was a really interesting one. And I immediately thought of something like just a really funny moment. I don't know if it's the most memorable, but it's the time where where I consumed my plastic tooth card. So here, I've actually got it right here, so I can really demonstrate this. So I use these little plastic things to protect my lower teeth, right? Like some people use cloth tape. I used to use that, but now I use just this multiple plastic. It's the same type that Brennan Lagan uses with his lip saver stuff. But I just make my own here. And, when you have, as any saxophonist knows, when you have it in your mouth and you're not playing, you just sort of like play around with it a lot. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. But I do. And I was like sort of loosening it. And I don't know, just the stars aligned, and I just took a quick, sharp inhale for whatever reason. As I had as I had become loose in my mouth, it was like shunk, like straight to the back of my throat, and I was like, and I was like trying to get it out, and then I was like, I did that a few more times. The other guys are just like, what is going on? And a few more. A few more gags, and I'm really trying to get out of there. And then at a certain point, I'm like, this ain't coming back up. And so I had to swallow it. And the good news is I tested it, so you people at home don't have to. You can swallow plastic tooth guards, and it will not harm your digestive tract. I didn't even see it when it came out, but that was a very memorable moment for me. That stuck out to me when I saw it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go second vote on that one.
Yeah, there was a second time where I almost swallowed another one, but so far it's only been the one. So
I would like to also propose that now's the time that Hunter comes forward and tells the story of backstage at the Greenwich Music House in January, before our show with Parhelion
in New York.
Okay, that was the single most funniest thing that has ever happened to Nois has been this, for me at least.
I don't think we've told this story to anyone, so this is like
we've never told it.
This is an exclusive.
Janusz, are you
so excited.
You're okay with this? Here we go. All right. So we were backstage ready to, it was like the last piece of Parhelion Trio, who's a fantastic ensemble based out in New York. We're very close friends with them. We met at the 8th Blackbird Lab, the Creative Lab, back in the summer of
2018.
18, yeah. Summer of 2020. That would be tomorrow. Anyways, so we were playing a show with them, a double bill, out in New York, and we were backstage, and it was their last piece. So we were like all getting ready and getting our reads and stuff like that. And Janusz was like, "All right, Hunter, let's get you relaxed." So we tried to crack my back, and this is in the middle of like a very, very soft, contemplative piece that Parhelion was playing.
I should describe too, the way I crack people's backs is I'm quite good at it, if I may say so myself. So Hunter, he crossed his arms over his chest, and then I lift him up from behind, and then you lift them up, and you can like get quite a few snaps out. So anyway,
but what Janusz did not calculate was how dense of a person I am, and he tried to pick me up, and he picked me up and it was fine. And then he like lunged up to do the thing, but I think it was a little bit too much for him. And Janusz ended up farting in the middle of this like piece, and we could not stop laughing. And apparently everybody could hear us and it was a wild time.
So yeah, I lifted up Hunter. He's I'm not calling you Fat Hunter, but you're a big boy, like bigger than me, and it just caught me off guard and passed a little gas that was very audible to all those in the immediate area of the green room. And there's like no soundproofing between the stage and there, so we had to just hysterically laugh for no joke, about like 5 solid minutes.
Yeah.
And my abs were sore the next day.
Everybody cried, and we had to go on stage after that and play Music in Similar Motion, which is like 25 minutes long. We played with Parhelion Trio, and we played it in the dark, and thank goodness, because if I had made eye contact with any other member of the group during that performance, the performance would have been absolutely ruined.
Well, I remember standing next to Janusz, and I was like, if I look at him, I'm gonna have to leave the stage.
Wait, but did your back crack?
No,
I don't know. It's because well, I couldn't get enough lift. I was just like, oh god, Hunter's a big boy. And then I farted, and it was over. It was all over. Yeah.
It truly be like that, in the words of
yeah.
many youngins nowadays.
So that's a Break a Read podcast exclusive story.
One of the best moments of Nois, in the history of Nois,
Sure.
There.
Awesome. So yeah, I kind of want to move on from that for now. I feel like that's a good place to end that.
Before we say anything,
what was that, Brandon?
Oh, I just said before we say anything and give too many things away, everybody might
Right.
spill all the beans.
Yeah. Now is a good time to move past that. So the way I kind of view things with chamber music and kind of marketing yourself is that there are two sides. There are probably a lot more than two, but in the most simplified form, I view it there being two sides to being a successful chamber ensemble. And there's obviously the musical output that you're doing, like having a polished musical output and rehearsing regularly and things like that. And then there's the marketing side. You can just be really, really active on social media, but if you don't meet ever and you don't have good musical output, then you're missing the majority of that experience. So, and you guys do both amazingly well. Just all over social media, you guys have merch, and during NASA, that was all over the place. And you guys are always on social media, and that I feel like a lot of people recognize Nois as a brand, and you guys have great musical output as well. Do any of you have any words of advice for aspiring chamber ensembles that are trying to achieve both of those kind of sections of being in a professional? Sorry, Hunter's just looking all over.
Sorry, there's a fly in here and it's gigantic.
Jordan's our social media guy. I feel like he could really speak to he could really speak to to that at least.
Yeah, for sure. I think I can talk a little on this. I've always been one in my own personal social media posting that is like uncomfortable with overly serious posting and overly serious promotion. And so when we started the social media accounts for Noise and it was decided that I was going to run them, it's just like what was comfortable to me was establishing like a voice online that would be recognizable across all platforms that we have. And so I think for us, like as you said, the number one thing is it's like it literally doesn't matter how funny you're posting on social media is if you sound bad.
Hmm.
So it's hard to promote things, it's hard to have merch, it's hard to have anything else if you don't do the work in advance to make sure that you can like back it up with the stuff that you're posting. So yeah, for us, I think it's like I use a voice for Noise that's not never like really taking ourselves too seriously. Um, and is always like kind of fun and lighthearted, and like there's a lot of pictures of Hunter and stuff like that, and that's what works for us. But I've seen successful chamber posting too that is much more serious, and things like that. And I think the most advice that I have for like groups on social media is that one, like no gig is too small to post about on social media. It's not too small to invite people to. It's not too small to put a thank you after. Anything like that. Anything you can do, like social media for all of us. It's really just everyone making themselves look more important than they actually are, right? And so like the best advice I can say is just like lean into that. For instance, I think back the most memorable moment of this is we played a gig here in Chicago at a place called the Chopin Theater for the first year of the Impromptu Fest, and the like room that we played in was awesome. It was like in the basement of this theater, and it had a bunch of old couches and a bar and like oil lamps and like great vibes. And so I'll post a picture of that on social media, like super excited to be playing at this place tonight. Like this is gonna be awesome. Like come on out. And it got like I don't know, like 50, 60 likes, like something like that. And everyone's like, oh man, Noise is playing like such a cool gig tonight. That's awesome. One person came to that gig that we didn't bring with us. That to this day is the lowest attended Noise gig that has ever happened. But, you know, so and so person in the other side of the country doesn't need to know that, and just needs to know that you're out there and you're active and doing things. And I think the most important thing is, yeah, no gig is too small to post about or be grateful for on social media. And then the second most important thing I think is to make sure that whatever you're doing is genuine and isn't like make sure that whatever you're posting isn't gonna like be targeted at bringing anybody else down. You never want to be like, oh, we have 37 gigs this month that are coming up. We're really excited about that. 15 of them that we played last month had 100 people in attendance, like really, really great. Today, Noise rehearsed for 8 hours. It was a lot of fun. Can't wait to rehearse for 7 hours later, going on a run now. Like I think there's ways, there's ways to post that's like not helpful to other people. But as long as you're being genuine and insightful and like true to yourself and true to the brand of your ensemble, I think that's the best advice I can give.
Yeah,
I'd
that's a
say
lot of, yeah, awesome.
one more thing too, just to kind of piggyback off of that about outside of being online, of how important it is to just be a good person and like be a friend to people. Just and like it's cliche for a reason. Like be yourself. Like actually be yourself and do
Hmm.
just like be authentic. Like Jordan's saying, like if your social media game isn't posting pictures of dogs with funny memes or something, don't do that. Like
Yeah.
you don't have to do that. And that was the greatest advice that I think that I got in a lot of ways through coming up, the way that I came up through and playing a lot of music in my community, but also when I got to Chicago, to Northwestern with Professor Sullivan, and I just asked him, I was like, how do we get all these gigs, man? Like, I'm here in the big city now. How do we do it? Like he was in New York doing the thing. And the best advice that he gave to me and to us, really, that we say as a mantra all the time is go to the hang,
Hmm.
do it. You know what I mean? If they're like, you have to go, like, don't go to the practice room after the performance or whatever. Go to hang out with the people, and it might be awkward, but if you liked the thing, just go up and tell them like, hey, I'm me, I do this, and I really liked what you did. you can always find, I think Janos always says this really well, like you can always find one thing that you liked about that performance to start a conversation, or even if it's not a performance or just like somebody that you meet there. A lot of our gigs and performances and our biggest projects have come about because like one of us went to a party, and just decided to not sit in the corner or something.
Yeah, that's a lot of great advice. Going to the hang. I mean, it's so hard, like especially like right in the middle of the school year. It's like grind, grind, grind. No matter what, you need to get those like 3 to 5 hours in of practicing, and it's really important. I think, like you just said, to think about the other aspect of growing as a musician and growing as a person versus just staying in that practice room doing the grind. And that's I never really thought about that on a larger scale, like in a chamber music ensemble. But yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think the days of like, just being grinding in the practice room and just saying, oh, as long as I'm really good, like the gigs will come. I think those are, unless maybe you're like a child prodigy violinist, those days are pretty much over. And I think I can confidently say you can be a mediocre musician, but if you're really good at like talking with people and being personable, you'll be successful. I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's important too, to note, of just like, be nice to everybody. And like we always joke that, we go around giving classes to people on entrepreneurship, and that's part of what we do. And they could really be summed up in like, go to the hang and be nice. You never know who is going to be a person that's going to really help you down the line. And that's like, you shouldn't, like, your interactions should still be genuine. You shouldn't be thinking, ooh, I hope this person can help me someday. Like, that's not it. But like, one of my good friends from high school, and good friends from undergrad does all the graphic design for Nois now. And like one of my best friends in undergrad was a composer, Joe Cretia, and we went on year 2 of Nois. We went on a 5-week tour, and he's the person that got us to New York for the first time because he wrote us a piece. And like so much of what we do just comes from friendships and, just being nice to people and not putting other people down,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys for that advice. That's really great, and I think a lot of people who are watching will be very appreciative to hear all that. So I kind of wanted to move on. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Just one last thing. There's a lag. I was just saying, like, yeah, it's good. You have to play very well, as Jordan said, but I think in a lot of ways, like our saxophone culture sometimes gets a little too higher, faster, louder. I've got the greatest altissimo, and my mouthpiece is really cool, and that's fine, but it's not really what it's all about. You know what I mean? So yeah, just like hang out with people and be cool, and you'll make it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, with that, I kind of want to move on a little bit not music related. Maybe it's music related. I don't know, but everyone during quarantine has been going through their own kind of like groove. Like starting in March after NASA, people were trying to figure out what to do now that their lives literally changed like 100%. So individually, what have you guys like? What does a daily schedule looked like in like the heart of quarantine? I know some of you are back to work now, but like when we were like in it, what have you guys been up to?
Let's switch it up and do reverse score order this time. Janos, you got it.
Right. Thanks, sir. Thanks for the organization, Jordan. What daily schedule? For me, I had been teaching a couple of students, not two, just 2 students, over video call, but of course that took up only like a tiny sliver of my time. So I've been spending a lot of time doing one of my favorite hobbies, which is speed cubing. I've talked about this on other places too, but I love speed solving Rubik's cubes. If you saw me at NASA, you probably saw me solving this thing because I like to carry it around and keep myself busy and keep my hands busy. And so that's been a really fun project for me over quarantine. I just spent hours and hours like learning new algorithm subsets, and I haven't timed myself in a while because I'm really working on it's just like saxophone. It's like you got to like practice the hard stuff if you really want to get better. Right. So I average between 17 and 20 seconds per solve, and I'm trying to drive that down below 15 seconds if I can, and eventually get faster, like get under 10 seconds. So it's sort of a fun way, because like I was, Matt and I were talking before the podcast, and I was saying I can't really practice in my apartment much because my walls are really thin. And I think that's healthy. Like, I don't have a problem like taking a break from saxophone. For my own, mental health, I think it's really helpful just to like stop grinding that for a bit. But this is a good replacement because it's sort of quiet, but it also keeps that sort of saxophone part of my brain focused, and I can really, it's a way for me to continue practicing and feeling like I've accomplished something, even though this accomplishes nothing technically, except for make me happy, I guess.
That's awesome.
Which is very important, yeah.
Yes, which is very important. It's been a lot of fun. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, I'll go next. In the heart of quarantine, I kept actually like a pretty routine schedule. I'm a creature of habit, I guess. But I live with fellow saxophonist and fellow Break a Reed guest Julian Velasco, and so we would wake up every morning at about 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. And the deal in our apartment is I do all the cooking, he does all the dishes. So I would make breakfast while he would make coffee and smoothies. Then we have a nice breakfast, and then we finish our breakfast with a nice 30 minutes to 45 minutes of Super Smash Brothers Brawl on Wii. And then after that, we would go apart for productivity hour, where we would send emails, or it doesn't even have to be productive, just like time that we're not spending together. Then we would come back together, play a little more Super Smash. He would usually do something else. And my main quarantine hobby was walking. So I would just go on walks and listen to music. Actually, I had my proudest quarantine accomplishment last week. I walked from Evanston, Illinois, to the Bean in downtown Chicago and back, which is 31 miles. And here is my 69,000 steps that I took that day.
31 miles.
Oof.
Both.
Round trip.
Okay.
Round trip.
Oh
It was a 14-hour walk. So anyways, I was walking a bunch, and so back to the normal quarantine days. Then Julian and I would have dinner, and we would play some more Super Smash, and then we would go to bed. And we pretty much did that on repeat, and walked a bunch. I've seen a lot of new areas of the north side of Chicago, learned a lot about that. And the most exciting thing, other than my walk to Chicago and back that has happened, is that Julian and I this weekend acquired a Nintendo Switch after trying to acquire one for the entirety of quarantine. So our lives are pretty much over now. So it's been, thanks for this interview. I'll probably never playing a saxophone again. I just haven't played Nintendo Switch all the time.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's about what I've been up to.
Cool.
So in the heart of it, so I am back to work now. I've been back to work for about a month, but while we were in the heart of it, I still had most of my students still taking lessons. So I was teaching about like 4 days a week, for about like 2 or 3 hours or something like that per day. So that was keeping me busy a little bit. But other than that, I've been cooking more, which has been really fun. And we just bought a 5-quart saucepan, which has been a game changer. It is like wild. So we started frying things in there. We can do like pasta in like one thing, and so we've just been making a lot of food, which has been really nice. My place also has a grill, so we've been grilling outside and stuff. So there's been a lot of food, which has been great. And then just kind of playing games and stuff. I've been getting more into chess. So we did a little video series on like what we do outside of Nois, and that was my thing, was like, I play chess. And I'm not very good, but I've been playing for a while, so like I know what to do.
He's really good.
I'm not really good at it. Like, I would say that I can probably beat most of the people who play like chess, like, very, very infrequently and stuff. But like, I could never like beat anybody who actually like, is like going to chess tournaments and things like that.
Okay.
But I've been studying that. I've been like practicing and playing chess every day and things like that. But I also have been playing a lot of Xbox. I play Call of Duty a lot. So I've been playing on Xbox Live with like my friends. like this whole quarantine, which has been great. I've also been
Awesome.
teaching my roommate Chloe, who is the DMA violist at Northwestern right now, how to play Call of Duty, which has been the best experience of my life. So that's been great.
Is she good?
So she's getting really good.
Nice.
We've been at it for like, I think 3 weeks or something like that now. And yeah, she's doing great.
Awesome.
But that's about it. So just food and video games, and like the occasional teaching.
That's nice. Yeah, so for me, like, I mean, I guess when it really started to happen, I was still teaching with the University of Wisconsin. So our semester wrapped up early May, and then I just started teaching my BS class at Northwestern. So I've had a little bit of time where I've been a little bit more free. But throughout the whole thing, in addition to playing the saxophone, I also am like a singer-songwriter and write my own songs and play guitar and all that kind of jazz, and like to mess around with the synthesizer that lives in my room. And yeah, so you'll find me. Well, I think I'm like the old man of the group too. Like, I feel like everybody's, you know how this goes. Like, I'm up by 7 or 8. I don't think there was a day I didn't get up after 8 o'clock, like the whole time. Maybe like one day did I sleep until 9 or something. But so I kind of alternated between writing a bunch of songs. I probably wrote the most songs I've ever written in my entire life, which is nice. And surprisingly, none of them are about, well, there was one about sort of quarantine-ish stuff, but I didn't finish it. So I did that, and I actually played a couple of little shows for some of our friends, some private little Zoom online hangs. And then I also just like to read a lot. So I finished a couple of books that have been sitting on my shelf for a while, which was nice. And like right now, alternate sort of between fiction and nonfiction. And right now, since I love Athens, Georgia, the place I got to spend 4 lovely years, and its music scene, reading a great book that just came out this year about that called Cool Town. You should check that out if you like cool towns and cool music. But so yeah, basically playing different kinds of music and reading, and I also collect records. So I also just spun a lot of records in my apartment. I think the people I live in my studio there, and you know, I have neighbors, and I think they probably think I'm insane, or whoever lives in this room has to just be nuts, because it would be like, you know, some Baroque music on some instrument they had no idea, which was the soprano saxophone. And then it's like, here's a Casey Musgraves country album playing. Now he's singing apparently by himself songs I don't recognize, and now it's quiet for like 3 hours, and then all of a sudden there's hip hop playing. It's like, what's going on in this? But I never got a noise complaint, so that's nice.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean,
Noise complaint.
you got to keep your options open, and yeah, awesome. I've been having issues with noise complaints at my apartment a lot, to the point where it's really difficult to play saxophone right now. So I've been coming to school a lot and playing here. But yeah, that's really cool that you haven't been getting many complaints.
Matt, what did the beginning of your quarantine look like?
The beginning of my quarantine, I guess it was right after NASA, and we had our spring break, like right after NASA. And having taken part in 2 of the competitions and helping run the conference, I was pretty wiped, and you know, midterms and everything. So no matter what, quarantine or not, I was just gonna sleep for weeks. And the quarantine gave me a little bit of an excuse to do that. So I like had trouble opening my computer going to Zoom class when that started again. So I just kind of was really lazy in the beginning of it all. And then I started to find my groove, and I went on more walks, kind of like what you were doing, Jordan. And I was trying to cook more. I got really into Animal Crossing, which, Jordan, now that you have a Switch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally. Wait, Matt Fox, contest. I've put 280 hours in. How many have you put in?
I'm ashamed, because I've taken a lot of time off. Only like 120.
Oh, okay. I win. Or do I lose? Maybe, I don't know.
No, definitely
You win. if this gives any context, I have a 3-star island still.
Ooh, okay. Well, I have a 5-star island, so get on my level, Matt.
Guys, I don't have an island yet, but it's coming soon.
Yeah, Jordan's gonna be playing soon too.
Yeah, but that's about it. And then I started playing again. Like trouble playing in the apartment, so lessons were really tough. It was still nice out kind of in Arizona, so I would just go outside in a little area on the street and I just play outside because it was shaded, and it was actually really nice. I was practicing Jellyfish by Kristen Custer, and some random couple just came up to me and said they enjoyed the music and handed me a $20 bill.
Oh wow!
So I should just start playing, new music more often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a piece too. That's not one that strangers on the streets are usually like, here's $20. Thanks so much for.
And no accompaniment either. It was just like just me playing it really slowly.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'll
That's
take
awesome.
That's a great
But yeah,
story.
that's been my quarantine. And other than that, I've just been hanging out and finishing off my junior year.
Nice.
Yeah. So with all that, I want to kind of segue. You guys, well, this will be posted on Thursday. So tomorrow, Friday, you guys are releasing your debut album, which is so awesome. There it is right there. I just pre-ordered my copy. I'm so excited to get it. Congratulations, by the way. That's so awesome that you guys are doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to kind of ask you, for people who are watching that might be aspiring chamber musicians, what is it like, recording, producing, marketing, and just doing everything that you need to do for an album? Because I have no idea where to start, and that's something on my bucket list, whether it be solo or chamber music in the future. And how do you even start that?
Yeah, it's a whole process, particularly if you do what we decided to do, which is Hunter slipping and sliding over there on Zoom land.
Phones are flying. What?
Everybody strap in, make sure you got your seatbelt on at home. It's getting crazy. But yeah, it's an entire process really, where we ended up self-releasing the album too. Well, maybe we should start at the beginning. When you decide you want to make a CD, that's really just the first step, I guess. Sort of like we say before, it's like if you want to go from amateur to pro, you just got to say you're a pro now and you're good to go. But it took, it was one of those things that we knew we wanted to do. I mean, I've always loved, as I said, to collect records, so any recorded medium thing I'm all about. But we started thinking about it really early on, and the cool thing was we had played our debut Chicago show at sort of the club, the hub for new music in Chicago called Constellation, and we were really fortunate that we got to get on there. The Frequency series it's called, which is kind of like the spot. And we played this concert that was all Chicago composers, and 3 of them were pieces that had been written for us. They were the first 3 pieces that had ever been written for us, or some of the first 3 by friends of ours, and then a couple of other pieces that we really admired that also happened to be from Chicago. And we played that concert, and it was really cool because the great thing about the Chicago scene is it's just such a supportive place. It's everybody from the toppermost to the poppermost, like Eighth Blackbird, on down to to us and others, that everybody just comes out and really supports each other, and we want everybody to do really well. So that show was pretty packed. I don't want to sound like we're bragging about it, but it was just one of those moments where when you walk out on stage, you just feel really warm, good things. Because that was it's not like a school concert where at least your studio people are going to be there. It was like there were tickets sold and literally nobody could come, as would happen later. But at least for this gig, we did really good on that one. But so we did that concert, and after that was over, actually, it was Tamar Sullivan, our mentor, who was there, came up to us while we were still there and said, guys, that was a great show. You just roll right in the studio and just record that thing. And we were kind of like, haha, yeah, that'd be cool. But then when we started talking about it a couple of weeks later, we're like, maybe we should do that. And that seems like a good idea. Actually, we had to come up with some kind of concept for the album, and it made sense for a debut album to be somehow representative of where we're from and what we're kind of about. So we decided to do an album of basically that concert plus one other piece of music that was all from Chicago, and also had the bonus benefit of being all Northwestern based people too, which was pretty cool. And then you find an engineer that you like their work, and that can sometimes be the tricky part for folks who are out there thinking about doing it themselves. But that's the most important part, really, honestly. You want to make sure that the person who's going to record you, the real thing, is doing a good job. So listen to the stuff that they do, which we did a lot of. But we were fortunate that a lot of people in Chicago work with a great guy named Dan Nichols, who runs his own production company and has all his own recording gear, super high quality. And he's even low key flex here, but he's got that Grammy Grammy win. Sorry, not even the nomination. But yeah, you go to his house and it's just while you're sitting there in the mixing room, it's just staring at you, which is nice. You know, you got that for the percussion ensemble called Third Coast Percussion. Great record about Steve Reich music. So yeah, we worked with him and we set the dates, and luckily he helped us book the space. That's like another thing you really want to think about is where. And we ended up doing it at Northern Illinois University because Dan teaches there and was able to get us a nice. They were happy to let us use the hall, their big hall there, which is one way to go. You could do it in the
or
studio.
was it like a performance hall?
Like a performance hall. Yeah, it was one of their biggest concert hall actually. And that's something you want to think about, honestly, not to make this like a whole thing about how to record, but a couple of nuggets for the people who are thinking about it. You just want to make sure you pick the right spot for the music you're recording. So the stuff that we were recording was all pretty textural and needed some nice natural reverb, and the spot had the goods. So I think when you hear it, you can really feel the room, and that's kind of what we decided on too. You want to think about what kind of sound do you want, and this one we decided to go with like a really live kind of sound. Like it really sounds like you're just sitting right in the center of the saxophone quartet, and you like can touch it. And that might have something to do with the fact that Dan put 27 microphones on us, and is a genius about how to sort of arrange them. But yeah, and then like the things that Jordan maybe alluded to earlier, we had a great friend, Jordan's friend from high school, who did all of our graphic design for us and designed our logo. And then we loved that so much that we just asked her to do the record too. And our friend Nick Zulik, who many of you may know as a great saxophonist and composer, he's also an amazing photographer. So he took all these lovely photos that Jordan's kind of whipping out here. And then, then we took it all ourselves. I mean, we decided we were going to self-release it. So we had to make the plunge and learn, just sort of on the wing of how to market it and promote it and just get it out there and write liner notes. And Jordan and I are both CD collectors. So we just spent a lot of times looking at our favorite albums and being like, I like this and I don't like that. And how are we going to do that? You just kind of make it work.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a lot of like really good advice for people watching and thinking about maybe recording their own, because I feel like a lot of times have changed from just like recording in your garage and putting out like just a CD burned from your computer. Yeah, but that's awesome.
I would say though too, like, I don't know, I'm very passionate about recording things. You should do that a lot. You should record in your garage a bunch so that because we did that all the time, right guys? Like in a lot of our rehearsals and all of our gigs, we recorded them all and would often listen back to them. And that gets you ready in a lot of ways for the big show when you really go in to record an album, because you've booked time, you're spending money now to do this, and you are never all the way ready. I don't know how anybody else feels about that. You've got to be as ready as you can be when you go in there, but at a certain point you just got to turn the mics on and put it on the tape or on the hard drive, or whatever. And you got to do your best, and then just be ready for how to do that. But recording a lot, even if it's just you by yourself with your iPhone and listening back, that's going to take the nerves away when the 27 microphones are on and it's time to go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Yeah. Does anyone else have anything to add?
I think one interesting thing to add, and that we're really grateful for, one of the reasons that, and I think Hunter can talk more to this as well. One of the reasons that me and Hunter and Janos have to get together tonight after this is to send out all of our Indiegogo perks rewards. And so we crowdfunded this album. Shockingly, albums are expensive. And for us, we really wouldn't have been able to do it. I think there was like 160 or so supporters on that Indiegogo that we ran in the summer of 2018 to pay for this album. And Hunter is we have business titles in our quartet too, and Hunter is our director of development. So maybe Hunter, if you want to talk more about that and the importance of that to pay for things.
Yeah. I mean, this album would not have happened if it wasn't for the people who donated and supported us throughout our careers, just like playing, but also in terms of like the support that we received, whether that be monetary or just like sharing the post of our Indiegogo. We ended up raising over like $13,000 for the CD. And wow. When we say like CDs are expensive, they're very expensive. There's a lot of things that go into it that we necessarily don't think about right off the bat. It's the cost of the actual haul. It's the cost of paying a recording engineer. It's the cost of we're self-releasing, so it's the cost of the CDs, the cost of the paying Nick for the photos, paying Christy for the graphic design. There's a lot of things that go into this. And we would just not be able to do it if it wasn't for those. I think it was 167 or something like that. That was just through the Indiegogo, and we had donors outside of that as well. And we cannot be thankful enough for those individuals who donated their time and their money to help us create this CD. It was a very, very long process too. I mean, it's not like something that just happens in like a week. It takes a very, very long time, and those individuals that we're talking about who donated to the Indiegogo, we are just very, very excited to get together and be sending out everybody's perks for, you have your specific levels that you get. If you donate $50, you get a signed t-shirt, or not a signed t-shirt, you can get a signed t-shirt. You get your signed CD, you get your t-shirt, you get your stuff. So we are getting those together tonight and the following next days, so we can send those out, which is very, very exciting for us to kind of show our thanks for these individuals who donated to the CD to make it happen. So I've become very, very close with your my post office worker as well. So they're always good to befriend, I guess, because you're going to be visiting them a lot if you are doing any sort of merch, any sort of CD sales, anything like that. So that's also there.
Yeah, thank you. So we're looking at about a little over an hour here for the podcast, so I'm going to try and slowly wrap things up. I had one more question for you guys. As a group, what is your favorite pastime when you're not in rehearsal? Like whether just be going out to eat.
I'm just ready. I'm so sorry to interrupt. It's like destroying them at Catan. It's
Settlers of Catan, the board game that is. Yeah.
Hunter, Hunter, you have your phone. You have your phone handy. What's the number?
Oh wait, hold on. I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah. So while Hunter's pulling that up, I'll describe that we enjoy playing the board game Settlers of Catan together. It's a perfect 4-player game, so there's 4 of us. It's great. And somehow Hunter just always kicks our asses.
Always.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So we have the total of like how many wins, but we also put like who went first, and like if you went second and you won, we put a tally for second place went first, or second place won. So in terms of the games, we have Brandon at 4 wins. I have 12. Jordan has 3, and Janos has 4.
Very imbalanced.
It's important to note too. We only started keeping track of the games that we played 2 or 3 years into Nois. So like the majority of those games have happened in like the last like 18 months, I would say.
Okay.
Yes, we have missed a lot of those games. And then in terms of placement, whoever went first won 8 times. Person went second won 7. Third went also won 7, and the person who went last only won once.
That's for the settlement placement for all you Catan nerds out there.
Yeah.
So if you go last, you're probably just gonna lose. So, but I will say this has gotten very heated now, our Catan games, because it's literally 3 versus 1. Like they will make the stupidest trades with each other to help each other win, just so I don't. No, I don't want to hear that.
Let me guess the teams.
Jordan and Janos are the worst at this. They're like, okay, I'm gonna give you.
Hey, There was one time
No.
where it was either Hunter was going to win or I trade away all my resources to Jordan and let him get the win because he has the least amount of wins. And what can I say, Hunter? I thought Jordan deserved it more.
I appreciate you for that. Yeah.
Hunter's just
Well,
salty.
and the thing about it is that I always get caught in the crossfire, right? Because like I'm always doing great in the beginning, and then everybody just starts like freaking out about Hunter, and then nobody will like deal with me. It's a whole shebang. The whole ecosystem is really wild.
Yeah.
We're very passionate about our Catan games.
Very passionate.
Yep.
But we have like a constant. I don't think we've ever written it down, but there's certainly an unwritten like constitution rule book of like this is if chess rules like you take your hands off the piece, it's done. Like, it's very just so that we wouldn't end up like taking it outside at the end of the day.
Yeah, when you pass, your move is not done until you pass the dice to the other people. And so as soon as you set down the dice, like that's
it. Game
your
over.
group.
Yeah,
it's done. No more trading. It's over. Yeah, we've really hashed it out here over the years.
Good. That's awesome.
And we've had to hash it out because we've had a lot of fights.
Yes.
is the reason.
This is true.
I mean, that's an intense game. I honestly think that there are more fights in Catan than there are in like Monopoly.
It's been so long since have we played Monopoly together? No.
I got banned at playing Monopoly at my house in Virginia because I would always win. So we cannot play Monopoly at my home anymore.
And I remember in high school, I was really passionate that Monopoly needed to have trading, and all my friends hated that, and people would cry, and so my friend group stopped playing Monopoly.
Yeah,
like trading properties.
Right.
Yeah.
We played that once with Jordan's rules, and it was so stupid.
Yeah, but Matt, I have to agree with you. I think the fights in Catan, they're more heated. People
Yeah, you get more invested in it. Where in Monopoly, it's just like a bunch of little fights.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Awesome.
Cool. All right, well, it's about that time where we destroy wow, just taking out the knife. Ready?
Oh, wait, Jordan! Oh my gosh. You're doing the same thing I was doing.
Brand new read for you guys.
Look at this.
Hey, me too.
Setup. All right, here we go.
Perfect.
Wait, Matt, do you break a reed every single time you do this?
I don't, but I bought a box of reeds and they all suck. So it's just,
Nice.
I'm not willing to let them, I'm not going to play them.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any like stories about these reeds before we annihilate them, or?
Yeah, actually, I don't think this is my read.
Is that a Legere? Oh no, I thought it was. Has anyone ever broken a Legere on this show, Matt?
Not yet.
Not
This
yet? Okay.
this read
I'm not
says
going to.
this read says Gucci on it. And I don't mark my reads with Gucci, so I don't know who's
Is that Julian's?
It might be. I might be about to. It had a chip in it to begin with, so I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, this might be Julian's. Sorry, Julian.
Yeah, I don't think I have any stories. Mine's just it's been years since I've played clarinet, and maybe this symbolizes the fact that no, I'm never going to be good at clarinet because partly because I don't have my own instrument, but this is a clarinet read.
Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else got a story?
What do you like to make a soup later? What do you do with it?
I'm just getting
Oh,
ready.
he's got a camera person.
I can't hear them.
All right.
Do you want me to put it louder?
Oh, nah. All right, we ready?
All right, let's just count down. 3, 2, 1. Oh, right down the middle.
Gnarly.
Knife one is perfect.
Perfect. Well, thank you
man.
guys so much for coming on and for breaking a read with me. There was a lot of really great talk. Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited to get my copy of the album.
Oh,
And thanks for doing this, man. Like, it's been really cool to see you create this community across this time. You're doing something really special and needed. So thanks for your spirit and your creativity. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
yeah, for sure.
Thanks, guys. That means a lot. Well, with that, I'd like to end the interview today. Thanks so much again for coming on, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the day and a great rest of your summer.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Yeah. All right. Take care, guys.
You as well.
Bye.
Peace.